This Bobcat controller panel keeps flashing on and off. Today, I'm going to show you how to diagnose the problem and fix it. I've repaired hundreds of these Bobcat panels over the last couple of years, and today I'm going to share exactly what I've learned from those repairs. Okay, right off the bat, I see burn damage on the top right, and it looks pretty bad, but often this type of damage is not as bad as it looks once we clean up some of the smoke and burn marks. So let's start with some isopropyl alcohol and a Q-tip. Let's switch over to our microscope so we can take a closer look at it. This is the area we've already started cleaning. We obviously still have a little bit more burn damage here, so we'll keep adding some isopropyl alcohol. Okay, it looks like right over here is where the majority of the damage is. I'm gonna remove the circuit board out of the shell. What I'm going to do is use a toothbrush, and I'm going to try and really flush out some more of this, but I'm going to do it over the trash can off screen just to get rid of the bulk of that burn damage. All right, well, looking at it after doing a full clean here, we can see there's still definitely a trace that got damaged here. So this trace here to this capacitor, the ribbon that has melted a little bit. Okay, flipping the board over and going to the opposite side of the board, I also noticed this component here. So this component here, that is smoke residue, and it is just completely fallen apart. That component is disintegrated, it's completely burnt. So that's additional damage. We have now found multiple issues with this circuit board. I'm actually having a hard time believing that it's actually turning on even for a split second. Yeah, looking at that, it's not looking very good. I'm going to, again, try and clean up that component just using a toothbrush and some isopropyl alcohol, and we'll reconvene once I've done a little cleanup. So I was actually able to clean it up so well that we can now see what's written on it, which is 2N06L64. That's gonna be the part number. So at least now we've identified what that component is and what we're gonna need to replace it with. Now, going back to the back side of the circuit board where we first identified the damage near the ribbon, I do have a processor chip, a very large chip in the center. I want to make sure that that one's not damaged. So looking at it under the microscope, we have a yellow capacitor over here on the top right side. I'm going to use the right side of the component, which I know is ground because it's a capacitor, and I'm going to measure the top right pin here, and I'm going to see what resistance I have. So I'm in resistance mode, and I get about 35.7 ohms. That is very low, so I am suspecting that it's possible our processor chip is also defective and may need to be replaced. Before we do the repairs, I wanted to do a quick check with the infrared camera. We're gonna turn the unit on and let's take a look. Is anything getting abnormally hot? It does look like it. So that transistor is getting very, very hot, 103 degrees Celsius. Okay, let's turn that off before it gets more damaged. Because that component is getting above 100 degrees Celsius within just 10 to 15 seconds of the unit being on, that's the first component I'm gonna wanna replace. For the removal process, we're gonna start by adding some solder to the joints. And this is gonna be a difficult removal because of how hot this component's gotten. It looks like some of the pads are actually fused together. In order to do this properly, we're gonna remove the front plate first, and then we'll go ahead and have a little bit more space to work with. I've also swapped the iron tip on the soldering iron with a larger one so I can get a little bit more heat into the system. And I believe this bottom left leg is actually gonna just fall off because I can see a crack right here. I can probably desolder that and lift it away. Oh wow, the whole component is coming off here. That's a bit of a problem. So I've successfully desoldered the leg. I can put my tweezers below it, but the problem is the entire pad for the large pad here is completely lifting with the component, and we don't want that to happen. Let's try and separate the other leg here from the pad. I don't know if I'll be able to. I really fear that we're just gonna be breaking. I'm gonna add a little bit of flux. Hopefully that'll help with flow, but the thing is, when we're dealing with burn damage like this, often the pads and the legs of the components actually fuse together, and it's really difficult to separate them. So I have a feeling we're just gonna have to break this off. And unfortunately, Yeah, so we just had to rip the pad off as well. So the trace that that leg was attached to, right over here, just got ripped off. And I mean, that's okay. We'll make it work, but it's just unfortunate. Ooh, there we go. Okay, I think what happened was part of the component is still actually fused to the pad, but we're going to be able to use that as our pad for the replacement component. So it's actually not an issue. Next, I'm actually going to add some fresh new solder for our replacement component. And I'm going to slide in our replacement component. All right, perfect. And we just saw the solder solidify. I don't have very good flow. Let me add some flux. There we go, that's much better flow. So next we'll solder down the legs. And the second one, I'm just gonna preemptively add some flux. We'll add flux to that first leg as well. We'll touch that up in a second. All right, let's clean up some of that extra flux. So I'm gonna go to continuity mode with the multimeter, which means when I do have continuity, I have the beep. And we wanna make sure, do I have continuity? I do, so that's good. That's the only leg I was a little bit unsure about. Now I'm not gonna put everything back together, but I'm gonna use the infrared camera to see if the component that we just replaced is also getting very hot or if it's staying cool. Okay, right now, the hottest part is 32. Okay, and that very quickly went up to 75. Now, something that I noticed, however, is that it's no longer the transistor that we replaced that is getting very hot. It's the tiny little one to the left of it. And what we're gonna do is I'm going to spray the area with isopropyl alcohol. I'm gonna power on the unit. We're gonna take a look. And that is the component that dries up the fastest, which tells us that this is the component that gets hot. So taking a little bit of a closer look here, it actually seems like this capacitor here is cracked. Let's remove some of the silicone. It looks like it's damaged. Okay, I've really zoomed in on the area. I think it's actually just a bit of a chunk that might have cracked. Yeah, look at that. I shouldn't be able to have done that if it wasn't damaged. So let's desolder this capacitor. Actually, before we do that, so back in continuity mode, I get a beep when I have a short or continuity. I have one lead on one side. Yeah, so I'm getting a dead short right now. I've switched over to a smaller iron tip, and I'm just gonna flood the whole area. We're gonna zoom out just a little bit. I was a little close. Let's recheck, do we still have a short? We do still have a short, so that's a problem. Let's remove the component here. Let's see if that's going to get rid of our short. Now I did also notice that the legs of this component had little balls of solder near the top, which means that it got so hot that the solder did melt and get squeezed out from the silicone. So now we're gonna add some flux. And I'm gonna use my hot air to remove this component. So I'm using that extra solder I added as a visual indicator. When it goes liquid, I'll be able to remove the component. There it is. I'm gonna remove some of that extra solder, and we still have a beep, which means we have continuity, which means we still have a short in the system. So it's possible that this is coming from the processor. I've plugged the circuit board back into the system, and this time we're gonna focus on the power supply. So it is set to 12 volts. When I power it on, I'm only getting 3.4 volts pulled. However, I'm getting my maximum amperage of 0.6. What that means is that it confirms there is still a lot of shorts in the system. Now, we did already confirm that with our continuity checks earlier with the multimeter, but that does further confirm that there's a lot of issues and this board's not able to fully and properly power up. I am fairly confident that we're gonna have to replace our processor chip. So we're gonna go ahead and do that next, and then we'll do some further tests and see where we're at. If you recall, with one of my leads on the right side of this yellow capacitor and my other on the pin over here, we were getting about 37 ohms, and we still do. So it looks like the short was not due to the processor itself being defective, although it's possible it was defective, we just have more issues. But typically with these boards, when we see this kind of damage, usually the main processor chip will need to be replaced. So we kind of had to do that anyways, and I figured this might be the case. Top left of the processor, we have another component with a yellow capacitor. What do we get? We're also getting 37 ohms here. Quite confident the processor was going to be the issue and the solution, but because that's not the case, we're now in a little bit of unknown territory, and so we're going to be doing some further diagnostics. Now, because we have that same very low 37 ohm reading, I am now suspecting this IC over here could be bad. And so what I want to do is desolder that leg. So as always, we added a little bit of solder first to get good flow. And now we're going to lift the leg up. You can clearly tell that the leg is very far off of the board now. It's not making contact. It's pretty much parallel with the board. And I'm still getting that same 37 ohms. Let's connect to the leg itself. Same thing. All right, let's do one more test real quick. With the processor gone, are we still drawing too much amperage? Are we able to get to 12 volts? Let's find out. We are still not able to get to 12 volts. We're still drawing way too much power. So using the infrared camera, I'm gonna try and see if I can identify where exactly the overdraw is occurring. So after a little bit more troubleshooting, I did remove the three-legged transistor that we had installed. That was very burnt. So as you can see right here, it's now been removed. And as a consequence, we are now able to draw the full 12 volts and only 0.24 amps. So obviously the unit cannot fully turn on because we're missing our processor chip and a couple components. With the infrared camera, we can now see that there is a component at 47.3 degrees Celsius, which is a little hotter than expected. It's the NAND chip. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a replacement NAND chip. This is not going to be a repair that I'm going to be able to do because the NAND chip does contain specific data and software that I do not have available. So unfortunately, what this means is that this circuit board is going to have to be a no fix for us. Now, even though this is going to be a no-fix scenario, I'm still going to remove that NAND chip, and then we're going to plug it back in and see if we still have that same power draw or if our power draw drops down to 0. I would like to ideally see the 12 volts with no power draw at all, or very minimal at least. That would confirm that my diagnostics of the NAND chip being the issue is correct. And there's a lot of silicone, again, on the chip, so we're going to have to remove that in order for us to properly desolder it. Oh, and you know what? Something we could do, is I'm noticing a capacitor here, is, yeah, we still have that same exact 37 ohm resistance there. So either that is definitely a short from the NAND. I'm going to melt all of the solder. And you know what? I'm having a hard time with this iron tip to get good flow across all of the pins at the same time. There it is. The short is gone. We no longer have our short. Let's look over here. We don't have our short anymore. We now have 400 ohms. Okay, let's look over here. This was the very first one we were checking. 400 ohms. So by disconnecting that half of the NAND chip, we have confirmed the NAND chip was the issue causing some of the shorts that we were seeing. Now, I'm not saying the NAND chip is what failed and caused all of that damage. Most likely that damage caused the NAND chip to fail. But in this scenario, because it does have very specific software for this circuit board that we don't have, that does confirm this is going to have to be a no fix. Now, if you do have a Bobcat controller base that you would like to send in for us to fix, we do offer flat rate services, which come with a 1-year warranty. Usually the ones that don't have burn damage, we have better success with, but we do and are able to fix burn damaged ones, just this one was not a fixable one. Otherwise, if you found the video helpful or useful, leave us a like, subscribe for more content, and thank you for watching.